Indictment, a formal written charge of crime as the basis for trial of the accused. If the balanced scales of justice are to remain righted, there must be trials, there must be convictions. The vital step which leads inexorably to these is the accusation of guilt by the grand jury, the indictment. Indictment. The story you're about to hear is from New York City and is based on stories of the criminal law, with authentic procedures as detailed by Eleazar Lipsky, former Assistant District Attorney of New York. It is the Assistant District Attorney who directs criminal investigations, assembles facts and witnesses, builds the case to a just indictment.
Oh, excuse me, I'd like to visit Mrs. Lalabassa.
Private room?
Yes, ma'am, believe so.
Oh, yes, the girl who's married to the Indian gentleman. Are you a member of the family?
Yes, ma'am, I'm her brother.
All righty, now down that corridor, take the elevator to 4, all the way down to the inn.
Ellie?
Huh?
Ellie Mae.
Doctor? Clement, how did you... Who let you?
Hush now, honey, hush. It's all right. I'm here now, and that's all you got to know.
But my husband...
Honey, there's just no stopping a determined Texan. I told him I was your brother.
Clem, what if he comes?
I don't care, honey. I'm tired of playing cat and mouse, and I tell you just like I'm going to tell him when I do see him. The minute they let you out of this place, you are coming with me. Honey, what's the matter? What's your trouble? Darling, where's it hurt you? Why, your poor little hands are freezing. Your feet.
Don't touch my feet.
Well, honey, what is it? What's the matter? Didn't hardly touch the sheet.
I don't know. Clem, I'm scared. I'm afraid I'm going to lose the baby. I don't know what to do.
Well, what did they say it is? Did they tell you? By golly, I'll go and ask that doctor if he's keeping something from you.
Convulsions. The doctor says it's got to do with my having this baby.
Convulsions? Well, there's got to be injections against something like that. Darling, what'd you go and do?
I didn't do anything, Clem. It just came. 1 minute I was fine, and then I got so sick, and I had these convulsions. Clem, honey, hold me awful tight.
Oh, hush now, darling.
I can't help it. I'm going to lose the baby. I'm going to die. I just know it. I could feel it.
Well, darling, you got the whole hospital taking good care of you.
What can a hospital do about poisoning? I mean it, Clem. He poisoned me.
Now, don't go talking like that, sweetheart. That's just plain sick talk. Look, I got to skip now, but I'm not going back to Texas till I take you with me. You hear?
Mr. Lalabassa, I've just seen your wife.
How is she tonight?
Not so well. I'm glad I caught you. I wouldn't suggest a visit tonight.
But, Doctor...
She's had another convulsive attack, and there are marked opisthonetic symptoms.
I beg your pardon? True, I am a research chemist, but physiological terminology is out of my line.
It's a term that describes characteristic convulsions in toxic pregnancy. The body rests on the heels and head. The back is arched.
Is there anything I can do?
As a matter of fact, there is. I want to put her on calcium immediately. Calcium chloride and elixir of lactopeptin. These cases of eclamptic toxemia in the latter months of pregnancy are thought to be due to a deficiency of calcium.
And what is it you wanted me to do, Doctor?
Well, the hospital pharmacy is closed. It'd be a matter of picking up the order from outside. I've already called for it. Would you? The nurse will administer it, of course.
Of course.
The pharmacist has a prescription. I might as well tell you, you have a very sick girl there, but we'll bring her around. That I can safely promise.
Yes, ma'am. I'm Mr. Hatfield to visit Mrs. Lalabassa. Her brother, remember?
The girl with a toxic pregnancy, the Indian's wife?
That's right. I was in here yesterday. What's the matter? Something wrong, ma'am?
You mean that this is the first you... He didn't tell you?
Well, is she gone? You mean she's all better so soon?
Mr. Hatfield, she passed away last night.
But I'm telling you, Mr. McCormick, practically the last thing she said was, he's poisoning me. Just that way, just those words. He's poisoning me. Now, I suppose you want to know where I come in. Well, I mean, it's a motive.
How do you make that out?
Well, her husband knew we were in love. Because she told him when she asked for the divorce.
How did she come to marry him in the first place?
I don't know. It's just one of those things. She come up from Tennessee to Columbia to study chemistry, and he come over from India, and I guess he just plain fastened her right off her feet, and they got married. He's on some kind of research fellowship.
And how did you meet her?
I met her on a plane. I was coming up from Texas, and she was coming back from Tennessee. We got talking, and we got to meeting, got to walking. That was about the story, but he knew about that because we told him.
I see. And you think that's motive enough for murder?
Mr. McCormick, I'm only asking you to look into...
Well, I'm afraid I'd need a little more than suspicions. With all due respect, Mr. Hatfield, I imagine you both felt a little guilty about your, meetings.
Yes, sir. Guilty, that's true. But I never do things but open and above board. That's why I made her take me to see him and tell him right out. But Ellie Mae and I, we belong together more right than him and her ever did.
Has it occurred to you that Mrs. Lalabasa might have projected her guilt feelings on her husband and made up a fantasy about his guilt to salve her own?
Look here, Mr. McCall, I don't understand this here psychological talk. I only know what Ellie Mae said to me.
Well, people are always suspecting they're being poisoned, and how many check out? Very, very few. You see, poisoning is a rare psychopathic type of crime, frequently charged, rarely encountered.
Mr. McCormick, how many times do you get one where the man is a research chemist? How many times do you get one where the man is the last one had his hands on the medicine itself?
What's that? I thought she was in the hospital.
Yeah, sure, but I did some checking. I found out Ellie Mae's husband fetched her last medicine from a drugstore. The hospital pharmacy was closed for the night, and he run the errand for the doctor.
Special Bureau, McCormick.
Ed, Tom Russo. On the diagnosis and death certificates, Mrs. Lalabasa.
Uh-huh.
I'm over at the hospital now. She came in as an eclamptic toxemia. That's toxic pregnancy. And that's how she was buried.
You talked to the doctor?
Uh-huh. I've got the whole history, symptoms.
Well, tell me when you come in. How'd you make out on the medicine Hatfield mentioned?
Dead end, Ed. The nurse administered the stuff. Calcium chloride and lactopeptum elixir.
Uh-huh. Go on.
Routine's got that alley closed. The nurse destroyed the bottle and contents. No reason to keep it around. Standard procedure, she claims.
Yeah. All right, Tom. Come in and I'll have the medical examiner go over those symptoms.
Look, Ed, let me save you some trouble. Your trismus, tonic closing of the lower jaw, these various spasms, the cyanosis, the rhesus sardonicus.
Oh, wait a minute. Take it easy, Doctor.
Sorry, the sardonic grin and the anxiety between spasms, the premonitions of calamity.
He's poisoning me, she said.
That's right, Tom. Now, all of those indications are as characteristic of toxic pregnancy as they are of strychnine poisoning.
Well, then...
There's only one way to find out. I might as well stop beating around the bush. You can push symptoms around on paper till you're blue in the face. But if you want to prove your corpus delicti for an indictment, you'll need
a toxicological report on the organ.
Right. Dig her up. Get Lalabas's consent to exhume and examine, and you're on solid ground.
That's your final answer, Mr. Lalabasa?
That is my final answer.
All right. If you won't consent...
You will let my poor wife rest in peace.
I will apply to the Supreme Court for an order granting a permit for exhumation, and I'll get it. I understand you're planning to leave for India.
Within a month?
Well, don't. Until the report is in.
Morning, Ed. What's new?
Toxicologist report on Mrs. Lalabasa.
Come on. Never mind the suspenseful pauses.
Strychnine.
Ouch. What's your case now?
I'll check them off as I go. 1, was the medicine the source of the poison? We'll never know. 2,
Did she poison herself? We'll never know.
did someone else in the ward give her poison by accident? Nurse, orderlies, they all had access. And the pharmacy, did it make an error? A lot of useful medicines contain strychnine.
Now, how about Hatfield? Did he introduce the poison? He could be putting on an act, you know.
You tell me. Did Lalabassa do it? He had motive, but
Here it comes.
I'm not going to start a case I can't finish, Tom. If Lalabassa sits tight, how can I prove that he gave her that poison?
Yeah.
I need proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Tell you something else. One move I make that's wrong, and Lalabassa, that brilliant foreign student on a big research foundation grant, Lalabassa would be defended by lawyers retained by the Indian Embassy, the foundation, the academic community, and bingo. There's the special bureau in the papers with international repercussions all over the place.
Yeah. Proof you need. Proof.
Beyond a reasonable doubt. Well, Hatfield's coming in later. I'll see what he knows about Mrs. Lalabassa. Meanwhile, no visitors, Tom. I've got a lot of reading to do.
What's all that?
Well, remember what the medical examiner said about poisoning cases, only about 1 or 2 a year?
Yeah.
I've got them all the way back to 1897, and he's right. They're hard to prove. As a matter of fact, this will be my first, and I hope it's the last. You say you met in her car.
That's right. We drive out to their summer place on the island.
Now, wait a minute. Car, summer place, 6-room apartment, plane travel home?
Yeah, I know what you're driving at. Where'd the money come from, right?
Knowing what I know about research fellows, especially foreign students, right. Unless he was a prince or something.
Oh, no. That was all Ellie Mully's money.
Oh. Ellie was rich when he met her?
No, sir. Well, they got engaged and her mother died sometime in around there when they were visiting, at least before they got married.
What was the name of that place again?
Stokes Corner, back in the hills of Tennessee.
Tom?
Practically on my way.
Give me a call from Tennessee. Mr. Hatfield, that name was?
Codree, Mrs. Cora. But Cora Codree, the one whose daughter married the man from India. That you ought to find her.
You got it, Tom.
Right.
Bye. In just a moment, we shall return to Indictment. Special Bureau, McCormick.
Ed, Tom Russo.
Yeah, Tom, what did you find in the hills?
Something. You better come down here first plane. I found Ellie Mae's mother.
Now, what's the story?
Tetanus. The mother died in convulsions.
You're sure it was tetanus, Doctor?
Oh, yes. Get a lot of it down here compared to town and city. Bacillus comes out of soil contaminated by horse manure. Tetanus it was.
Mm-hmm. You remember the case?
Why, yes, I remember them all. They're the classic symptoms. No spasms, terrible spasms, draw the body up like a bowstring.
Opisthotonus.
That's the word, boy, from the Greek, you know. Opisthos, that's backwards, and tonos, that's stretched backward.
Uh-huh. All characteristic of tetanus.
That's right.
And also of strychnine poisoning.
Well, yes, that's true, but you don't get that in the hills here.
What do you do for it?
Well, she's pretty far gone. Gave the poor soul a jolt of serum by lumbar puncture, but she went. What's all this about strychnine poisonings?
I was just wondering.
I would do a thing like that. It was Ellie Mae down here with her every minute. That Indian she was going to marry. Well, you'd have thought he was her own son, the way he tended Cora Codree. You don't believe me? Go on up to the house. Talk to old Sarah.
Now, just a minute. Who's old Sarah?
That's the housekeeper, Mr. McCormick.
Have you talked to her yet?
No, sir, not yet.
Let's. Just one thing more, Doctor. Could you run tests for strychnine?
Yes, could do that. Yes, I could test for strychnine. If you had something to test.
Yes, sir, folks talked about him being Indian and dark, but loving, tender care, or you never saw the like.
Oh, what did he do?
Why, he couldn't stand seeing her suffer like that, and he went into his doctor bag and he come up with medicine. He said they never had none like it in the drugstores even, much less our little old clinic.
He gave her this medicine? Pill, liquid, what was it, Sarah?
It was liquid.
Go on.
Matter of fact, he gave it to her before she come down with a lockjaw. She was feeling poorly, and he said it'd be good for what ailed her. Fixed her up fine, too, and up and around, and then that night she took the lockjaw.
How'd she get the lockjaw?
Just a scrape on the ankle. You know, an old rusty wagon tongue. Just a little scrape. And it was that night he gave her the medicine again so she wouldn't suffer in her joints. And I tell you, if I ever come down with a misery, why, that rare stuff out of the doctor bag, I'm going to take a good dose.
Well, you get it. Do you know what it was?
No, sir. I don't know what it was, and I don't know what it is, but I still got it, and I aim to use it. I'm just as bad as the Caudrys, you know, the way they got their money. I don't throw nothing away, nothing.
All right. Nitrosulfuric acid. Sure to turn light orange. Let's see. It's a delicate test. Yeah, you are. Pretty light, but she's increasing in intensity. Water next. Here she comes, light pink orange. Let it set a while now. No precipitate. Clear and pink orange. Hold that cloth over your nose, Mr. McCormick. This is concentrated ammonia.
All right.
Clear as gin. Strychnine.
Alabasa, you finished with that report?
Yes. It shows that my wife died of strychnine poisoning. I am shocked.
You should be. You poisoned her.
How?
With that dose of calcium chloride you got from the pharmacy.
How can you prove that? It might have been a mistake made by the pharmacy. I really do not think you can prove anything but a possible accident. I loved my wife.
I can prove that your wife's mother died of the same type of poison.
I see.
Are you prepared to base your defense on two mistakes?
My defense?
To an indictment for murder in the first degree. Or would you rather make a clean breast of the story now?
A confession.
Shall I call a secretary?
Let me think.
Now, let me tell you what you did. When your mother-in-law got that scratch on her leg, you gave her a mixture of strychnine, using that old housekeeper as a tool. Your expectation was that her death would be taken as caused by tetanus, lockjaw, which the symptoms imitate.
Did I?
And knowing your wife was having a difficult pregnancy, you did the same. One small dose to send her to the hospital with symptoms of toxic pregnancy, in convulsions, and a second fatal dose, using the nurse that time as the tool to kill her.
Very interesting, but mere coincidence.
I am prepared to indict you and convict you and send you to the electric chair on that coincidence. And I mean it, Lalabasa.
You have no case. I have studied your jurisprudence, and you have only a circumstantial and a suppositiously circumstantial case at that.
Lalabasa, I have two cases.
I do not understand. You have no case in New York. My mother-in-law died in Tennessee. What else will you try me for? Being a foreigner in an American court?
No. I'll only try you for the murder of your wife by poison. My other case is called People Against Molyneux.
And what has that to do with me? You can only prove one case at a time.
It's a leading New York case which laid down the rule to allow the introduction in a case like this of prior episodes of poisoning to prove the guilt of the pending charge. It is designed to overcome any possible defense of accident or mistake or coincidence. And in your mother-in-law's case, where the family money was first at stake, the old housekeeper saved the bottle of poison. It'll be People's Exhibit 1 at the trial.
I am under arrest?
Yes.
May I call my embassy?
I think you'd better. The story you just heard was drawn from New York City and based on stories of the criminal law as detailed by Eleazar Lipsky, former assistant district attorney. The names of all persons and places were changed. Indictment is written by Alan Sloan, produced by Nathan Kroll, and directed by David Hebb. Nat Polan is featured as Edward McCormick. Jack Arthur is Tom Russo. Also in the cast were Marjorie Gateson, Elizabeth Lawrence, Bernard Grant, George Petrie, Guy Repp, and Mason Adams. Listen next week at the same time for another Indictment.
Indictment has come to you through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.